Good morning. Good morning. The goal is for this one to be brief. If any of you were on with me last night, that live, me and Dr. Kiara, it was really, really good. It was long though, but it was good. Like it was definitely the Holy Spirit was there. Dr. Kiara is an OBGYN. She's one of my friends from college. We went to University of Michigan together. And I think she lives in Chicago. Yeah. And she's an OBGYN now, and I'm a plastic surgeon. And we were having a talk last night about like how our practices as doctors has turned into ministries, and the ways that women hold like part of the challenges that we have as women, losing weight and stuff like that, is really attached to wounds and things that we've endured when, in the past, and we are like coping with it through food, and oftentimes lack of sleep and stuff like that, which also contributes significantly to weight gain. It was a lot in it, and it was really, really good. So I encourage you to go back and check it, like watch the replay. And tonight, I'm going on with my girl, Dr. Amaka. So she's a plastic surgeon also. And we're going to talk tonight. The topic is really, really good. So tonight we're going to talk about times that we wish we did not operate on people. Like kind of some of the things surrounding a person's case or situation that made us wish we didn't do the surgery on them. So, we're going to talk about that tonight. It'll be at 8 Eastern Standard Time, 7 Central Time. She's on Central Time also. So that's what we're doing tonight. It's interesting because when I woke up this morning, which happens all the time, I'll go to YouTube and see the ministers that I follow if they've posted any new messages. And so one of the people had posted a message, and it was interesting because they spoke on something that I've kind of like inadvertently spoke on a few times. And it was about being patient and waiting on God's timing. Actually, we touched on that last night. When we make moves because we're uncomfortable in the space that we're in, we're uncomfortable, and we start making moves that actually makes us end up stepping outside of God's will. And send me a DM, Queen Her 5, about what you want prayers for, unless you want to say it on here. If you gotta give me something to. I'm happy to pray for you, but let me know what the need is. If God promises you something, this is what he was talking about. And this is what he was ministering to me, because this message I've been sharing, but I've been preaching it to myself also. And God will promise us things. He'll tell us, and we'll know that he told us, and we'll know it was him. And then you start going through life and stuff starts happening, and we will step out of his will because we feel like we can't take. We're just too impatient to endure whatever it is he's trying to. Anaya, are you purposely trying to get in my video? I keep getting requests from you to be in the video. We will, in an attempt to control or help God with what he promised us, we will start sticking our noses in it. And he even uses, I literally was reading this story to my sister yesterday, and I spoke about it a few days ago live, but about Sarai, Abram, Hagar, and Ishmael. When the Lord told Abram he was going to give him a son, an heir, and a son where many nations would be birthed through him. And they were old, and they didn't think they could do it. And after time passed, they started feeling like, his wife came like, listen, I'm old. I can't have no baby. So what I'll do is, you can take one of my servant girls, and I can give you a baby through her. So they start trying to fix it and help God. And whenever we try to help God or stick our nose in his business, it doesn't end well. And he made a point that I hadn't considered before. Because it didn't stop the promise that God gave him from happening. Yes, they had their son, Hagar and Abram had Ishmael. But then after Ishmael was 13, the Lord came back around and was like, hey, that child I promised you, he was like, it was Ishmael. He was like, no, that wasn't Ishmael. The promises that I have for you will not be fulfilled through Ishmael. Like that was your doing. That was flesh. I didn't have nothing to do with that. The promises that I have for you will be fulfilled through Isaac. Well, when the angel of the Lord came to Hagar and told her she was pregnant with Ishmael, the angel also basically described Ishmael's fate. Let me read that one line to you. Hold on. Okay. Okay. I'm starting at Genesis chapter 16, verse 7. The angel of the Lord found Hagar beside a spring of water in the wilderness along the road to Shur, because she had ran off. Because once she got pregnant, Sarah started treating her like crap. Okay. Even though she the one who told her. That's the side note. So she had run off. So the angel of the Lord came to her. So the angel of the Lord found Hagar beside a spring of water in the wilderness along the road to Shur. The angel said to her, Hagar, Sarai's servant, where have you come from and where are you going? I'm running away from my mistress, Sarai, she replied. Mistress during these times meant a woman of authority or chief woman. So like the head woman of the house. So Sarah was Abram's wife. So that's, like slaves call their masters mistress. Mistress is like the female word for master. Okay. So she said, I'm running away from my mistress Sarai, she replied. The angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit to her authority. Then he added, I will give you more descendants than you can count. And the angel also said, you are now pregnant and will give birth to a son. You are to name him Ishmael, which means God hears. For the Lord has heard your cry of distress. Listen, this is what happened. Listen. This son of yours will be a wild man, as untamed as a wild donkey. He will raise his fist against everyone, and everyone will be against him. Yes, he will live in open hostility against all his relatives. Okay, why did I read you that? So the pastor that I was listening to this morning, he's like, them sticking their nose in God's business, Sarah going and telling Abraham to sleep with the servant girl and get her pregnant. And then they did it. It happened. She got pregnant with Ishmael. He said they didn't realize what they were unleashing on the earth, because basically this angel told them they basically unleashed an enemy. They unleashed an enemy that they had to deal with forever. Ishmael, he said he will live in open hostility against all his relatives. He will be a wild man. He will raise his fist against everyone. He was born of flesh. And it's sad for him because he didn't have no control over it. This is just what his life was set to be. Because folks start sticking their nose in God's business. And so I started thinking about things in my life where we've unleashed things. And I'm like, wow, that's definitely what happens when we try to take things into our own hands and we lack patience. And so Ishmael was born And 13 years later, so now we're coming up on a couple decades after the Lord told Abraham, or Abram at the time, his name was Abram, that he was going to give him a son. Enough time passed for them to make their mistake, stick their nose in it and mess up stuff. Bring another human into this world whose fate was to be living in open hostility for his entire life. Like, that's what they said. This is what when we stick our noses in God's business, when he tells us, and this is why he don't tell us a lot. We think we want to know, but we can't handle it, because when he gives us a little glimpse of what he has planned for us, we start trying to make it happen faster in our understanding. We start doing stuff to just make it difficult on ourselves. God still gave him Isaac. Isaac still came, but now they had Ishmael running around in open hostility to them forever. And his descendants were the same. We have no patience. I'm saying we, because I'm the same. Listen, this is why I'm in this Bible so much, and I'm just like seeking, because I need the Lord to. I'm like, Lord, send me another sign. Lord, send me. I ask him to send me signs constantly. I really do try not to move without him though. Now, like I don't think I make a lot of moves on my own anymore. As I was mentioning last night, in reflection, in 2021, I had the Lord revealed so many things to me about my own life, and like times where there was a fork in the road and I went the wrong way, and I was leaning on my understanding in every situation. I was not holding on to what God told me. In these times, like, and the thing is, when I'm thinking now, like reflecting now, he told me the same thing different ways at different points in my life. And those were, I was holding on to those things. But then between those times when he gave me those words, I saw what he said, like I could envision it, but then where I was didn't seem like it matched. And I would make decisions trying to make what he's told me was going to happen. It's not for you to make it happen. It's for you to follow his instructions every day. If you follow his instructions every day, you actually will get there faster. But when we go and stick our noses in God's business, we prolong the thing. Because you know what happened when Ishmael was born? The Lord waited 13 years before he let Isaac come. He waited until Ishmael was old enough to be sent away. He waited. So like once they got circumcised, he was 13. And the Lord said, I want you to circumcise all of your people, your slaves, your family, your son, everybody needs to be circumcised. And that's like a sign of the covenant with me. Ishmael was circumcised, and shortly thereafter, once Isaac was born, Ishmael and his mother was sent away. The Lord didn't mix, like he couldn't mix them, because Ishmael, it says it, he would live in open hostility against all his relatives. He couldn't be in the same proximity with, so we created this situation where the Lord had to have this man send his son away. They made that mess. This is what we do. We stick our noses in it, and then the Lord, we gotta share. That was hard for Abraham, because that was his son. He said he didn't want to do it. Lord had to come to him and be like, listen, it was causing drama in his home and everything. The Lord was like, listen, I'm going to take care of him. You got to send him away. Do what your wife said, send him away. So he put water and food on Hagar's back and sent them off. How do you know that God is speaking? For me, I find I overthink things when I think it was God. It's what God will want. I usually end up thinking myself into circles and ultimately inaction. That's a good, I'm glad you said that. Okay, so I hear people saying God wouldn't want that, God wouldn't want this. People say that all the time. And it's people who folks would perceive as leaders. First of all, we don't know what God would want, because you know what? While I was reading that to my sister, she was telling me about like a situation with a child being born to some folks that weren't married, and the person had a wife. And so it was drama, right? So, and she was just saying, like, it's not fair. And I'm like, no, it's not fair. But she was like, God wouldn't, and I'm like, that's not true. And I read her when God told Abraham to send Ishmael and Hagar away. Hold on, I'll read it to y'all. We always think, but the thing is, if you read the Bible, you'll realize that, you know, God is a God of order. And a lot of times we do stuff that creates a lot of disorder. Right? And so then we'll start saying God won't want this and usually when we're in these kind of situations, it's because we did something of our flesh out of God's order. And now all of a sudden we want his order to be in it. Okay, so Abraham went and had sex with this woman that wasn't his wife and got her pregnant and had a baby. And now, of course, his wife is going to be jealous. Before she had her own baby, she was jealous, even though she the one who told him to do it. We do this all the time, humans. We be like, you think we're going to be one way, and then when we're actually in a situation, it's something totally different. And then once her child was born, she's like, I don't even want to see that kid or this woman. Right? So it was giving him a lot of grief in his house. So then the Lord said, okay, so then Genesis chapter 22, wait a minute, wrong one. Genesis chapter 21, starting at verse 8. When Isaac grew up and was about to be weaned, Abraham prepared a huge feast to celebrate the occasion. But Sarah saw Ishmael, the son of Abraham, and her Egyptian servant Hagar, making fun of her son Isaac. So she turned to Abraham and demanded, get rid of that slave woman and her son. He is not going to share the inheritance with my son Isaac. I won't have it. That sounds like something that would happen now, right? Verse 11. This upset Abraham very much because Ishmael was his son. But God told Abraham, do not be upset over the boy and your servant. Do whatever Sarah tells you, for Isaac is the son through whom your descendants will be counted. But I will also make a nation of the descendants of Hagar's son, because he is your son too. Verse 14. So Abraham got up early the next morning, prepared food and a container of water, and strapped them on Hagar's shoulders. Then he sent her away with their son, and she wandered aimlessly in the wilderness of Beersheba. That's what it said. Now, you wouldn't think the Lord would say, send off your child. Folks be like, the Lord wouldn't want that. We don't know what he wants. The Lord had a reason. And the Lord took care of them. After that, I stopped there, but the Lord sent an angel again, gave him some water. He ended up birthing 12 tribes came from him. Like, he wasn't, but he lived in open hostility. He had to live with the fact that he was sent away. His father sent him away. You know what I'm saying? Like, he had to still bear the burden of those wounds. And his spirit was in torment for his whole life. He still had countless descendants and all that stuff, but he wasn't happy. Right? So we always think, so I'm going to go back to your question. I want people to resist the urge to say what they think God will want outside of what he directly told you. Because all the stuff in the middle getting from you from A to Z is God's business, how he does it. And we'll start thinking you don't understand what he's doing. We don't understand. You're not going to. And he's not going to tell you everything because we talk too much and because we get to meddling. So he tells you enough. And then if you have faith, it's a faith building exercise. He gives you a glimpse of where you're going to be headed. When he gives you that glimpse, you're not going to be there tomorrow. You're not probably going to be there next year either. When the Lord gave me a glimpse, and it was like a little morsel, and it really was like, it was a glimpse of the part that he knew that I wanted, and like what was in my heart my whole life to have. What was attached to that is so much bigger. Okay. So he gave me that little glimpse. And then it's been It's been 11 years since he showed me that. And then 2 years ago, he gave me the glimpse with more detail. And then the things that have happened since he showed me 2 years ago, part of where he was trying to take me and part of my assignment, everything that's happened since then, up until about a month ago, it looked like it was impossible for that thing to happen. Okay, it's the glimpse I struggle with. I can't tell the difference between my thoughts and God's will. You need to pray on it. Okay, so this is something that I also, that God has been working with me the last few years on, how to discern his voice from mine. So yes, you need to pray. Also, you need to read the Bible. I know that ain't what people want to hear, but it's literally like, when you read, the more you read, the more like things will start. He'll start to show you stuff in the Bible that will show you his heart and his character. And then some of these things that you think is him, you'll realize that ain't him, that's me. That's how I know. Like when my sister said what she said yesterday, I said, that's not right. But it sounded good. It sounded really good. No, the Lord wouldn't want the child to not have a father. That sounds real good. It's just not true. This is what people say all the time. But I just read you when he told Abraham to send Ishmael and that send your son, your servant and your son and the servant woman away. Send them away. That's what he said. That doesn't match what. So, but the reason I knew that and I didn't take that in, even though it sounded good, was because I'm reading this Bible every day. I'm reading it all the time and I'm learning new things. And I'm not just reading the stories that they preach over and over again at church. I'm reading stories that I'm like, dang, why they never preach this story at church? This is an important lesson. If you open it up yourself, you'll start to see some of the areas like, dang, God did that. I mean, it's some stuff in there. I told you all about the story with Jephthah in Judges. When the Lord had Jephthah went and made an agreement with, he went and told the Lord, if you give me the victory, whoever or whatever comes out of my house when I return home, I will give to you as a burnt sacrifice. And then when he returned home, his daughter came out of the house and he had to burn his daughter as a sacrifice to the Lord. And he did it. The Lord wouldn't take no child as a sacrifice. The Lord wouldn't do this. The Lord wouldn't. It's not true. It's not true. There's so many things in here that shows you, okay, and he has a reason. And it's like, it might not make sense to us in our earthly understanding and with all of our flesh. Hey, baby girl. And with all of our flesh, it might not make sense to us. But the Lord has a reason for all the things. Good morning, Mama. Sorry, y'all. Milo Rose got bad head. She just woke up. Milo Rose, sorry about Milo Rose's bad head, y'all. So, reading the Bible helps me a lot to discern between his voice and my own. And it also will help you because sometimes when you get in these situations, people will help you make bad decisions and ignore what God said. You have to what you should focus on is the last thing that you got from the Lord that you know was just him. And the stuff that came after it where you're thinking about it, it's like when God tells you stuff, you like, okay. And it's certain messages that you get from people, from prophets, from a sermon, from reading the Bible. It's some stuff that jumps out and grabs your spirit and you never let go of it. You just remember, even when stuff is, you like, I remember when that person told me that a lot of times that is from him, from God. And that's what you need to hold on to. And the other stuff that comes that's confusing, he's not a God of confusion. So if you're confused, then you definitely have that's the discernment piece. If you're confused, you have to just get more and more in his presence so it'll make it less confusing. I was talking about this the other day. I don't remember. I think it was live on here with twins, identical twins. When you first meet a set of identical twins, you can't tell them apart. If you get into intimate relationship with them, when I mean intimate, I'm not talking about sexual. I'm just talking about start doing life with them, being around the both of them constantly, hearing both of their voices all the time, seeing how over in time they start to look different, even though they're identical. You can't get tricked by if one of them walks in the room, you'll know which one it is. If one of them starts talking, you'll know which one is talking, even though they have their identical twins, their voices sound the same and they look just exactly the same. When you're in relationship with them, the subtle differences between the two people will start to get more obvious to you. And it'll come a point, if you're in relationship with a set of twins for years, they don't even look alike to you anymore. They are two distinct, different people, and you can tell them apart all the time and in all the ways. That is what happens when you continue to build intimacy with God. It makes it so that it's harder for you to confuse him with any other voices, your own included. That only comes with time spent with him. You can't, people want to jump to like some quick, easy answer, and there isn't one. When you build a relationship with your husband, that comes with time of spending time together when there's nothing going on, time together when there's nothing to do. Y'all might just be sitting on the couch watching TV. Y'all might just be fussing around the house. Time together when it's a lot of pressure, right? So then you get to see how each other responds in high pressure situations, how each other like to relax, you can't figure that out. You can't be like, go on the first date and be like, tell me how you do this. Tell me how you do that. Tell me how you like to relax. Tell me what's your favorite color. Tell me what's fun. You're not going to be able to get all the subtleties of a person by just asking. You have to be in their presence. And you start to learn those things over time. You might even recognize things about the person that they don't even recognize about themselves, because you're looking at it from a different view than they're looking at themselves from. The only way you get to do that is with time spent. Quality time spent. Not distracted time spent with them. If every time you're with the person, it's a whole bunch of other people around, it's a lot of noise and ruckus, it's all kind of other stuff going on to distract you, you can't get that kind of intimacy with them. This is how we build our relationships with God, unfortunately. A lot of people, only time they spend with God is at church when there's all of these other people around. All these other people around, and the people that are around are telling you how to interpret him. You can't build intimacy with your spouse by listening to what all of his other girlfriends told him about him. You got to spend the time with him yourself. Yeah, some of the stuff will be helpful that they said, and some of it will not be accurate for you. Because the way that person interacts with you is maybe different than how they interacted with that other person. Because you were different, and you're going to pull different things out. Marcy Sana said, you will discover things about yourself as well. Absolutely. This is what happens when you build intimacy with God. He teaches you about yourself. We don't know ourselves most of the time. We don't know ourselves. We think we know ourselves. Folks be like, I would never do that. Famous last words. He like, oh, you won't? I literally believe that a human is capable, every human is capable of almost anything when the right set of circumstances are putting pressure on them for a long enough period of time. And they don't have no God. Now, if you have God, that's different. But a lot of us say we have God and we really don't, because we don't have no quality time with him. We don't understand. He like, who are you? That's what Jesus said when all these people was coming up to him thinking they was headed through the gates. He was like, I don't know you. Hey, Jesus. Hey, Jesus. I prophesied in your name. I cast out many demons in your name. I performed many miracles in your name. And it said, Jesus will reply, get away from me. I never knew you. You who break God's laws. I don't know you. Who are you? Have you had that happen where people thought they knew you and you like, who are you? So the best way to discern God's voice is to start listening to it. You got to start, you can't like, so prayer is vital, necessary, required, important. It's just not the only thing. Because praying is you talking. Is you sending messages up. You have to put yourself in a position for the Lord to send messages down back to you and give you instructions. People are just sending instructions up to the Lord. He don't take instructions from us. He's not looking for our instructions. We need to get ourselves spend more time in a posture of receiving God's word without distractions, without it being watered down, without it coming through someone else's filter and lens. A direct relationship with him. And the way you start doing that is through the word, the Bible, reading it, opening it, and reading it. There is no substitute for that. And God is so patient, even though we are not. He will sit and wait on you until the gig is up. The things that he planned for your life when he created you, when that season passes and you ain't did it yet, I believe that that's when people leave the earth. It's like, okay, and why do I believe that? This is why I believe that. Okay, I think it's in Matthew. Matthew's my book, and it's my jam. Jesus curses the fig tree. Matthew chapter 21, verse 18. Dang, it was in Genesis 21 now. Matthew 21. Okay. In the morning, as Jesus was returning from Jerusalem, he was hungry. He noticed a fig tree beside the road. He went over to see if there were any figs, but there were only leaves. Then he said to it, may you never bear fruit again. And immediately the fig tree withered up. The disciples were amazed when they saw this and asked, how did the fig tree wither so quickly? Then Jesus told them, I tell you the truth. I tell you the truth. Wait a minute. I tell you the truth. If you have faith and don't doubt, you can do things like this and much more. You can even say to this mountain, may you be lifted up and thrown into the sea, and it will happen. You can pray for anything, and if you have faith, you will receive it. So, okay, I really could have stopped at 20. The point, 18 to 20. This is the point I'm making. Jesus was returning to Jerusalem, and he was hungry, it says. He noticed a fig tree beside the road. He went over to see if there were any figs, but there were only leaves. Then he said to it, may you never bear fruit again. And immediately the fig tree withered up. And I was like, why did Jesus kill that fig tree? What did that fig tree do? I was thinking about that for months. Why did he curse that fig tree? Why did he curse that fig tree, right? Then a couple months ago, it just like hit me like lightning. The purpose of that fig tree, it had a name, fig tree, was to produce figs. The reason that fig tree was there to produce figs was for the day when the Messiah walked by and needed something to eat. He was hungry. He goes to this fig tree whose assignment was to produce figs. The fig tree was not doing what the assignment was for its life. Jesus was gone after this point, and he was gone. There was no need. He went and got food somewhere else, I'm sure. He's like, listen, the time came where your purpose here was to feed me figs when I walked by. And when I walked by, you didn't have no figs. So now there's no need for you anymore. And the tree withered up and died. It's like when it was time for its assignment to be fulfilled, it was producing no fruit. And its time was up. Are you a fruitless fig tree? And then I was like, ooh, child, honey, I don't want to be a fruitless fig tree. Because we don't know. That fig tree didn't know that was the day that Jesus was coming to get some food. We don't know the day. We don't know. We don't know. And that's what the pastor that I was listening to this morning, that's what he was talking about. He said, Joseph, the Lord gave him a glimpse of where he was headed when he was a young boy. When he had that dream and he was, people were coming to him and he was up high and everybody was down low, even his brothers. And that happened decades later. And then Joseph proceeded to go through all these unfair things, put in jail, accused of all kind of stuff that he didn't do. And he actually was in charge in the jail. And he had the means to be able to escape, but he didn't try to escape. He wasn't like, Jesus told me that I was going to run the kingdom. He told me that I was going to, and so I'm about to break. I mean, not Jesus, I mean God, the Lord. Sorry, Jesus wasn't here yet, but he wasn't like, God told me that God promised me that I was going to be running stuff. And so I'm not supposed to be in this jail. I'm breaking out. He ain't do that. And let's say he got impatient the day before everything changed for him and he ran and he broke off. He would have been a fugitive. Instead of 24 hours later, his whole life changed. God doesn't say, okay, on this date at this time, I'm going to set you free from all these things that have held you in bondage for all this. He don't do that. You have to be faithful until the end. You got to be faithful until your time comes. If he gave you a glimpse, hold on to that. And then every day, seek his face so he can guide you day by day through what he wants you to do. Because here's the thing. All those trials that Joseph went through, they were teaching him things that he needed for the assignment. And instead of whining and complaining and being focused on what he said he was going to do in the future, he was present. In each situation, he was present. Even though it sucked, even though it was painful, even though it wasn't fair, he was present. He learned the things he needed to learn. He sought God's face. During that time, he leaned on God. And then when it was time, he was prepared and he was ready. We spend the whole time waiting, complaining, and trying to make it happen for ourselves for stuff that we ain't ready for. It's like I said, when my son Bennett, he's 10. When he turns 16, I'm going to get him a car. I'm not going to get him a car now. I've told him I'm going to get him a car when he's 16. He can't have it now. He's 10. It'll kill him. Just because I told him when you turn 16, I'm going to get you a car, doesn't mean I'm going to give it to him now. But he definitely be talking about Bradley, like Bradley wants a Honda Civic. He said he wants a Honda Civic when he turns 16. He's already, imagining his car, Bradley. But he don't have the car now. He's not saying, Mommy, buy me a Honda Civic right now. He's not going out trying to buy his own Honda Civic or steal one. You see what I'm saying? Just because the Lord told you now doesn't mean that it's not happening now. You're not ready for it. You can't even discern his voice yet between his voice and your voice. He's giving you exercises and all these things that's happening in your life that seem unfavorable. These are exercises that our life is the classroom. Our life is God's classroom. So the things that are happening in your life, he uses it to teach you how to hear his voice. If you seek him, or you can sit in those things and just wallow in there. You can go to class and you can learn in class, or you can sit in class and goof off in real life, right? That's why some people get A's in a class and some people get F's. Because some people are in the class learning, even when it's hard. And some people are in there goofing off or complaining about the fact that it's hard. And then when you're like, I'm going to 12th grade next year, but you failed all your classes in 11th grade because you was goofing off, then you mad that you didn't get promoted to the 12th grade. You can't go to the 12th grade if you goof off on the 11th grade. In whatever you're going through, separation, divorce, prodigal children, trials at work, people unfairly accusing you of things that you didn't do, betrayals, people stabbing you in the back, financial hardship, all of this stuff. What is he trying to teach you? Those things are there. That's your classroom. I had a lady a while back who she was on her 5th marriage and her husband was on his 4th marriage. Well, the first 4 marriages were classrooms. If you didn't learn, and so since she just left each marriage blaming the other person only, she hopped into another marriage and had the same fate. Because guess what? When you fail a grade, what happens? They make you repeat that grade again. When you fail a grade, you do not get to go. If you fail 1st grade, you do not get to go to 2nd grade. If you fail 1st grade again, you do not go to 2nd grade. It's not like, well, if you fail 1st grade 5 times, we'll put you to the 2nd grade. No. If you fail 1st grade 5 times, you'll keep being a 1st grader. What's supposed to happen is when you fail something, you say, wait a minute. But here's what happens, because people usually don't fail the same grade 4 times, because in this situation, people recognize, okay, there's stuff that I'm not learning here, right? And then you focus on those things. But with life, for whatever reason, we don't do that. We'll fail at something, and then we'll do it the same way again. Never stopping to reflect on why I keep failing at these things. But with school, since we know it's school, here's why we do that. Because a lot of people don't recognize that life is our classroom. It's the classroom that God teaches us everything he needs us to learn to prepare us for the assignment he has for us. To prepare us for the glimpse that he showed you at some point in your life of what part of what he wants to do with you. Because whatever he showed you, that's just a little piece of it. It's a tiny piece. Our life is a classroom. Isaiah 30:20. Here I go talking about this is going to be short. And I really do got to get off because I got to be at work at 10 o'clock. And I need to go get dressed. Let me just show you that life is a classroom. And then I'm going to, we'll get off of here. Okay, Isaiah 30:20. Although the Lord gives you, this is in the NIV version. Although the Lord gives you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, your teachers will be hidden no more. Adversity and affliction are your teachers. With your own eyes, you will see them. Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. He's literally saying, he's going to give you adversity and affliction. These are your teachers. Through that adversity and affliction, you're going to be hearing his voice telling you which way to go. That's teaching you to discern his voice. He uses adversity and affliction to teach you how to hear his voice. That's what that's saying. Let's hear what happens after you do that. Then you will desecrate your idols overlaid with silver and your images covered with gold. You will throw them all away like a menstrual cloth and say to them, away with you. He will also send you rain for the seed you sow in the ground, and the food that comes from the land will be rich and plentiful. In that day, your cattle will graze in broad meadows. The oxen and donkeys that work the soil will eat fodder and mash spread out with fork and shovel. In the day of the great slaughter. Okay, that went on to some other stuff. Basically, he's going to bring rain. That brings harvest. That's good. Rain is good. Okay. And it's going to, it says stuff is going to be plentiful, rich and plentiful. But first, you got to go through adversity and affliction to learn to hear his voice. People don't want to do that. Your life is the classroom. I don't care how bad whatever is happening in your life. Ask God, what are you trying to teach me? That's what you pray. Lord, show me what you're trying to teach me. That's what you should pray. Ask God to show you what he's trying to teach you in the situation you're in. Teach me, Lord. This was supposed to be short, child. All right, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Listen, tonight, Dr. Amaka and I will be talking about times that we wish we didn't operate. What does that even mean? Hop on with us tonight at 8 Eastern Standard Time, 7 Central Standard Time. We'll be here on Instagram. For YouTube, it'll be on Instagram. if you want to catch it live. And if not, I will upload it to YouTube after we're done. All right, y'all, have a wonderful and blessed day in this classroom of life. Seek God's voice always and in everything, and read your Bible. I love y'all. Bye.